Kody's ultimate dream just became his worst nightmare. Did Christine's new husband just buy Coyote Pass out from under him? What happens when Kody's pride and joy falls into the hands of his worst enemy? If you've been following the absolute chaos of the Brown family's finances over the last few years, you already know that Coyote Pass has been hanging by a thread. But right now, the internet is absolutely exploding with a rumor so deliciously petty, so completely iconic, that it sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood script. The word on the street is that Kody finally defaulted on the property taxes, sending his precious Flagstaff land straight to public auction this September. And the anonymous buyer who allegedly scooped it up? None other than David Woolley. Yes, Christine's David. And by the end of this, I will show you the one detail from the day the auction closed that almost nobody noticed, and the explosive rumor about how Kody supposedly found out from a TLC producer and completely lost his mind on camera. But to get there, and to truly appreciate the sheer level of karma at play here, we have to start at the beginning. Look at your screen right now. If you look closely around the 2-minute mark of this video, you will see what looks like a blurred, redacted property deed floating around the Sister Wives sleuth communities, with a very interesting LLC name attached to it. Hold that thought, because we are going to break down exactly what that document means and how anonymous land grabs actually work. But first, let's rewind and talk about how Kody Brown managed to lose the one thing he cared about more than anything else in the world. We all remember the grand presentation. We all remember Kody dragging his 4 wives out to the muddy, plague-infested dirt of Flagstaff, Arizona, pointing at the trees and telling them this was their promised land. He had this massive, sprawling vision of a patriarch castle, or at the very least, 4 beautiful homes surrounding a picturesque pond where the whole family would gather. It was supposed to be his ultimate legacy. But what did it actually become? A massive financial sinkhole. Year after year, season after season, we watched them stare at that dirt. Janelle literally moved into an RV on the property just to force some kind of progress. She wanted to build so badly. We all remember how heartbreaking it was to watch her beg for resources, pointing out that her name was on that land, her money was tied up in it, and yet there was always an excuse. Kody always had a reason why they couldn't break ground. And this part is documented. We saw it on the show time and time again. The county required them to pay off the land completely before they could redraw the property lines. They had to run utilities, which costs an absolute fortune in raw, undeveloped areas. But instead of saving every penny to build on Coyote Pass, what did Kody and Robin do? They bought a $1 million mansion right next door. They filled it with expensive art, Dickens villages, and who knows what else, while the actual dream of Coyote Pass sat there growing weeds. Now, here's where we have to separate what is documented in the public record from what the internet detectives are piecing together, because the reality of the Brown family finances has fundamentally shifted. For years, Kody relied on a combined family income. He had Janelle, the financial workhorse. He had Mary, pulling in money from her own successful businesses. He had Christine. But one by one, they left. And when they walked out the door, they took their TLC paychecks and their independent incomes with them. Kody and Robin were suddenly left holding the bag on a massive mortgage for their McMansion, plus the mounting, compounding costs of Coyote Pass. If you look at the public tax records for Flagstaff, Arizona, which are completely accessible to anyone with an internet connection, you can see a very clear, documented history of the Browns struggling to keep up with their property taxes. Over the years, fans and journalists have repeatedly pulled these records, showing thousands of dollars in arrears, late fees, and warnings. It became a running joke in the fandom, but property tax is not something you can just ignore forever. The county doesn't care if you are a reality television star. They don't care about your grand plans for a compound. If you don't pay the taxes on your land for long enough, the county will seize it and sell it at a public auction to recoup their money. Which brings us to the ticking clock of September 2026. According to the deep dive rumors currently setting Reddit on fire, Kody finally hit the wall. The theory is that with his income slashed and his expenses through the roof, he simply couldn't produce the cash to save the remaining parcels of Coyote Pass. The county stepped in, placed a lien on the property, and quietly listed it for public auction. Now, I want to ask you a question, and I really want you to think about it. If you were Kody Brown, sitting in your house with Robin, watching your ultimate dreams slip away, who is the absolute last person on the entire planet you would want to buy that land? Enter David Woolley. Let's talk about David for a second, because the contrast between David and Kody is the whole reason this rumor is so unbelievably satisfying. Kody is a man who talks about building. He draws up massive, unrealistic blueprints for a mega mansion. He strips logs. He talks about a big game. But in over a decade of owning land, he never actually built a single habitable structure on Coyote Pass. David Woolley, on the other hand, actually builds things for a living. This part is a known fact. David has owned and operated a highly successful drywall and construction business for years. He knows contractors. He knows permits. He knows how to take raw dirt and turn it into a home. And more importantly, David has the net worth to back it up. Unlike Kody, who has been visibly scrambling to maintain his lifestyle, David is an established, financially secure businessman who doesn't need reality TV to pay his bills. When he and Christine got married, they bought a beautiful home in Utah. They travel. They live comfortably. So the idea that David has a massive pile of disposable income just sitting around is not a stretch at all. But that's not even the strangest part of this whole situation. Hold that thought about David's construction background, because it matters tremendously when we look at how land auctions actually work. When a property goes to a tax auction, it's not like buying a house on the regular real estate market. You don't take tours. You don't negotiate with the owner. The county sets a date, people show up or log in online, and they bid. And very often, the people bidding are not buying under their own personal names. Wealthy investors, developers, and people who want to keep their business private use something called a limited liability company, or an LLC. You can register an LLC with a completely random name, like Blue Sky Holdings or Desert Pine Properties, and use that entity to buy the land. The only way to find out who actually owns the LLC is to dig deep into state registry records, and even then, smart lawyers can shield the actual owner's identity. Now, here is where fans on Reddit start to wonder, and where the rumors get incredibly juicy. Nobody from the family has officially confirmed this yet, but the timeline and the whispers are hard to ignore. The theory spreading like wildfire is that David Woolley saw the public notice that Coyote Pass was going up for auction. He knew exactly how much that land meant to Kody. He knew how much Kody had tortured Christine, Janelle, and Mary over it. And, being a guy who literally builds houses for a living, he saw an opportunity. The rumor claims that David set up an anonymous LLC, wired the funds, and quietly outbid whatever lowball investors were trying to grab Kody's dirt. And why? Well, this is where the fandom is absolutely losing its collective mind. The speculation is that David didn't just buy it as a financial investment. He allegedly bought it to build a massive, gorgeous vacation home for Christine and their massive, beautiful, blended family. Just imagine it. I want you to really picture this scene in your head. Kody looks out the window of his house with Robin, staring across the trees at the land he dreamed about for years. But instead of seeing his patriarch compound, he sees construction trucks. He sees David Woolley wearing a hard hat, pouring a foundation on the exact spot Kody wanted to build his own house. And he sees Christine sitting on a brand new porch, laughing, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, living her absolute best life on the very dirt Kody lost. It is a level of poetic justice so profound that Shakespeare couldn't have written it better. But wait, we have to come back to who was missing from this entire legal transaction. If David bought the land through a blind LLC, Kody wouldn't know. Kody would just get a notice from the county that the tax debt was satisfied and the deed was transferred to some random corporate entity. He probably assumed some faceless developer from Phoenix or California bought it to subdivide into ugly tract housing. Which brings us to the ultimate payoff. The moment I promised you at the beginning of this video. How did Kody find out? If the public records tell us the what, the reality television grapevine tells us the how. And this is where things supposedly got explosive. According to internet sleuths and rumors floating around production circles, Kody didn't find out by checking the county website. He found out on camera. The story goes that TLC producers were in the middle of a filming block, checking in on the aftermath of the land loss. They were doing what producers do best, stirring the pot, asking the hard questions, and pushing Kody to talk about his feelings regarding his failed dream. During a sit-down interview, or possibly a filmed meeting, a producer allegedly brought up the new owner of the property. They had done their own digging. Producers have massive legal and research teams. It wouldn't take them long to pierce the veil of an LLC and figure out whose bank account the wire transfer came from. The unconfirmed rumor is that the producer looked at Kody and asked him how he felt knowing that David Woolley was the primary stakeholder of the LLC that just bought his lots. And according to the whispers, Kody completely lost his mind. We have seen Kody angry before. We have seen the knife in the kidneys speech. We have seen him pace around, flex his arms, and yell about respect and loyalty. But insiders claim this was entirely different. This wasn't just reality TV anger. This was total, absolute ego destruction. The rumor claims Kody ripped his microphone off, started screaming at the crew, and accused TLC of setting him up. He allegedly accused Christine of orchestrating the entire thing just to humiliate him on national television. He couldn't handle the reality that the new, better man in his ex-wife's life had essentially swooped in, flashed his wallet, and bought the crown jewel of Kody's failed empire like it was absolute pocket change. Now, is this producer confrontation confirmed? No. TLC keeps their footage under ironclad lock and key until the season airs. But let's be entirely honest with ourselves for a second. Does it sound exactly like something that would happen? Absolutely. We know how much pride Kody tied into that specific piece of land. We know how deeply threatened he is by David Woolley's mere existence. David is everything Kody pretended to be: a genuinely successful provider, a beloved grandfather, a man who doesn't need to manipulate women to feel powerful. For David to literally buy Kody's turf, it is the ultimate alpha move, and Kody's fragile ego would shatter into a million pieces. Let's talk about why this matters so much in the grand scheme of the Sister Wives universe. For years, Coyote Pass was the weapon Kody used to control his wives. He used it to dangle hope in front of Janelle. He used it to string Mary along. He used it to justify his chaotic decisions. It was the ultimate symbol of his control over the family's future. When Christine left, she handed her portion of the land back, essentially washing her hands of the mud, the debt, and the toxicity. She walked away from the dirt to find actual happiness. For her to return to that land, not as a subjugated sister wife begging for a scrap of attention, but as the wealthy, adored wife of the man who now owns it outright, that is a masterclass in karma. It proves that walking away was the best financial and emotional decision she ever made. And what about Janelle? Fans are already speculating that if David really does own the land, he might just carve out the exact parcel Janelle always wanted and sell it to her for $1. Can you imagine? Janelle finally gets to build her casita, her greenhouses, and her garden, entirely free from Kody's interference, all because David Woolley played the greatest real estate reverse Uno card in reality TV history. It would be the ultimate happy ending for the women who survived decades of financial abuse. We will have to wait and see if TLC airs this alleged meltdown, or if David and Christine post a cheeky Instagram photo standing on the property. Knowing Christine's incredible sense of humor, she wouldn't be able to keep a secret this good forever. If this rumor turns out to be entirely true, it will go down in history as the greatest reality show plot twist of all time. But I want to know what you think. Is this just wild internet fan fiction? Or do you believe David Woolley actually pulled the trigger and bought Kody's land at auction? And more importantly, do you think David buying the land to build a vacation home is totally iconic? Or is it a little too petty? Tell me down in the comments below. I am reading all of them, and I cannot wait to see which side of the fence you are on. If you loved breaking down this wild rumor with me, make sure you hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Join the community. We are always digging into the hidden details and standing up for our favorite reality stars. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you in the next one.